22nd of June. I'm out here to share with YouTube listeners what I'm going through with my house. My house right now, the HOA, without sending me a letter of any kind or a warning of any kind, no communication, no telephone call, no email. In October 1st, after I paid my dues for October, November, December, that dues invoice that was mailed to me only had one charge on there, and that was for straight dues, $285. No warning. Nothing on the invoice to indicate that there was a problem. In that period of time, I didn't receive one letter from the HOA or one letter from a lawyer. When the invoice came in December, they had backdated a $100 a day fine back to October 1st. I was completely ambushed, sucker punched, whatever you want to call it. I had no idea this was coming. Of course, this is Buckeye. And in Buckeye, the history that you and I are going to have if you continue to watch my videos, the histories you're going to understand about Buckeye is we don't have to tell you. If we're going to arrest you on a warrant and we haven't served you on it, we're going to arrest you anyway, and we're not going to tell you that you had a warrant. That happened to me. So that's sort of the atmosphere that's out here in Buckeye. The political leanings out here. We don't have to tell you. Well, it's the same thing. They started this process, I don't know where it started. It had to start in somebody's mind, but I have no tracking. There's no discovery. They won't tell me why I'm non-compliant. All they say is you're not compliant. That's why you're getting a $100 a day fine. Okay, I've explained that. Now I want to explain the other lien that I have against my house. I've been living here 18 years. I bought 3 houses. I had 3 for about 10 years and then 2 for about another 5 years, and now I'm dealing with 1. And they've got a $100 a day lien against my property. Totally came out of nowhere, came out of outer space, no communication. Well, anyway, I want to explain, I don't know how to fight this. I don't trust, it's not that I don't trust lawyers here, it's just that they all have their own, each lawyer has a relationship with the lawyer, another lawyer, the lawyer has a relationship with the court, and he has a relationship with me. And I feel that those 2 other relationships with other lawyers and the court wouldn't help me a bit. I'd be wasting money. It's hard to find a lawyer who's going to feel sorry for somebody from California who 19 years ago came in and bought 3 lots overlooking this lake. Nobody feels sorry for me. But I want to tell you, this lien, I haven't gotten to it yet, but you see where that tee box is? To anybody who may pick up this house at auction, who may see this ad, from now on, every video that I make is going to have my address on it. The address of this house that's $100 a day fine. Right now I'm probably up to about $29,000. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I've called lawyers before and I've visited lawyers before, and they look at me like, you really want to go through with this? Do you really want to fight them? Because if you really want to fight the HOA, the golf course, and the town of Buckeye, it's going to be a 2-year fight, and expect to spend $250,000. But I want to share with you, that's one of the liens on my house. This right here, what you're looking at, is a lien on my house, and a lien on my yard, a lien on my civil rights, a lien on my quality of life, a lien on my possession, a lien on my guest, okay? That tee box right there has a history of putting balls in these yards up here day in and day out. I have another camera set up at a different position all day. It's going to record all the swings all day. But lots of times I say to myself, don't be Big Brother. Don't put a camera on these golfers. They should be able to come out here and play without you recording them. So I decide, well, I'll be nice. I won't record them. I won't record the circuits that goes on every day here. And I don't record it. The next thing you know, I got 2 or 3 balls in my yard, or I got a damaged gutter, or I got a dent in one of my walls. And I say to myself, gee, why didn't you have the camera out there? If you would have had the camera out there today, you would have got a video of 2 or 3 golfers hitting a ball in your yard. Well, that's the lien that's on this house. Whoever gets this house, if the HOA is successful in foreclosing on me and take this house from me, every video I make from now on, and all my other videos are going to be titled with the address of this house, so that anybody in the future, for any reason, if they should Google or YouTube the address of this house, they're going to find out all the liens and all the trouble with the house. And I will present a video here. I have to make a video. 2 videos that are very important in this case is how they kicked me out of the HOA. I'll have a video on the police report that the head of the board went to the police and more or less false witness. The HOA manager backed his false witness up with her own false witness and statement, a false witness and a statement to me, okay? But I want to let you know, if this house is up for auction and it gets foreclosed on and they're trying to sell it to somebody else, they're trying to profit. I've been here 18 years. I paid all the dues, all the taxes, all the fines to be here. Now, I want the public, the viewing public that's watching this video to understand that 10%, at least 10% of the golfers that are on that tee don't have a clue. All right? The rest are beginners and amateurs. Okay? I have balls in my yard almost daily. I have to buy windows. I have to plan on budgeting at least $2,000 a year for broken windows. I have people walking in my yard day in and day out. I have golf carts riding up and down my property line looking in my yard, and golfers walking up and down my property line looking in my yard for golf balls. And what happens here is, if a guy hits a golf ball 100 yards past me down the line toward the green, and he knows it's 100 yards past me, and he saw it going to somebody's yard or came up on this hill, the first place he starts walking is this corner. He walks up to this corner, and he walks down about 100, 150 yards of property line looking in everybody's yard for golf balls. All right? And then if he sees them, he doesn't have a trouble stepping over and getting them. That's a lien on this house. That lien has been there. I've sent videos to the clubhouse. I've had interviews with people who run the clubhouse, who run the HOA. Nobody sees a problem with this. But I want to let you know, anybody that buys this house, that's one of the liens you're going to have. And any complaints or any concerns you have about the risk that you have to live with day in and day out, walking point here, being close, is going to fall on deaf ears. We're in the kingdom out here, or I invested in the kingdom out here of the all-seeing eye. When you get into an HOA, your neighbors, there's people in each little section, each geographical section of the HOA is going to have a neighbor that wants to have block parties so they can have listening posts. All right? And then they report back to the HOA the feel and the mood of everybody. I don't go to block parties. All right? Everybody out here in Buckeye, to me, considers me profane. You don't deserve an explanation. We don't have to tell you. We didn't tell you that you had a warrant on your we didn't tell you that you had a court date before we threw you in jail. We waited until you got out of jail, and then we stuck your summons in your face. A little judge who's on a judicial misfit. There's a judicial tracking entity or a group that tracks judges, sort of like Donald Trump's judges. Well, this judge out in Buckeye, after I got out of 4 days in jail, and when I admitted to him, I'd had no idea about a summons. This guy in Buckeye, this judge in Buckeye who's on reprimand from a higher court or a higher judge, a judicial misfit as described by this watchdog judicial group as a judicial misfit, this guy held my summons up to me in court in front of God and everybody and the American flag and said, of course you didn't know about your summons. Of course you didn't know about the court date. We never sent the summons to you. Here it is right here. That's what I deal with in Buckeye. That's the personality of Buckeye. You want to see the personality of Buckeye? There it is. There it is. That's the Buckeye political way of doing business. You were provoking your neighbors. You had to be arrested. I wasn't provoking my neighbors. I was observing the plat map. We have a problem here in Buckeye. Because we're bucolic country out here, we can't understand all the intricacies and roles of everything that's on the plat map. Because we're in Buckeye, and it was 20 years ago, we're not going to observe that plat map. That's a rough draft. If it doesn't work for us out here, we're not going to put it in. One last thing. To all you stooges on the board, I hope you're not offended, but getting back to we're in the kingdom of the all-seeing eye. We're in the kingdom of the all-seeing eye, and a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Your neighbors, the people next to you, across the street from you, the people you talk to casually, are there to observe you, to report you, to let everybody know in the HOA whenever you do something that they don't like. Okay? I've been dealing with that for 20 years. I don't dare talk to my neighbors. Every one of my neighbors is a red-hatted, white supremacist, Midwest farmer who thinks that they should be able to bring their farm with them out here. They don't understand the intricacies of the plat map. They don't understand all the nomenclature that's on the plat map. Another thing that is a lien against my house is I don't have an emergency exit and egress and ingress out of my parcel. There's 63 houses here. The only parcel in all of Sundance Active Adult that doesn't have an access easement onto the golf course for a golf cart, and there's no access easement for emergency rescue, EMT, fire. All right, those professionals who, if they knew somebody was having a stroke here in a parcel 12 or broke a leg in parcel 12 or was having a heart attack, those professionals, and I've seen them here in Buckeye, are more than willing to go out of their way to get there as fast as they can to a patient. And what you have set up now, this little ambush, this co-opted, our track day got co-opted by a bunch of Midwest farmers. Okay? We're not going to share this with the rest of you. We come from the country. All right? We don't worry about access easements in the country. Okay? We have a farm. We don't have golf carts going by our house on the farm. We don't have rescue vehicles and fire vehicles going by our house back on the farm. All right? Because we got nobody living around us. Why would they go by? But here, you're in the urban. What happened out here in Buckeye, which is an oxymoron, they took an urban model. This golf course and everything on the plat maps and the master plan community for this golf course and these houses, 1,100 houses of Sundance Active Adult, it was planned out. Okay, it was engineered. They came out here, they surveyed the land, they came and saw what they had to work with, and they established these access easements, they established drainage, they established emergency ingress and egress. We've lost all that over here at Parcel 12. We don't have it. And getting back to the all-seeing eye, there's a yin and a yang with the all-seeing eye. Wherever you have the all-seeing eye, merchants of the all-seeing eye, performers of the all-seeing eye, part of that comic opera that's the all-seeing eye, you can't have an all-seeing eye without the yin of the all-seeing eye, without the yang of the blind eye. Wherever you have the all-seeing eye, equally in an opposing force will be the blind eye. What we have over here in Parcel 12 on track day on the ladies' tee box is the blind eye. The blind eye, right? The yin and the yang of the all-seeing eye. Now the all-seeing eye, all they see is I'm being fined by an orchestra leader of the all-seeing eye. This little you weaponized. You got maybe 7 or 8 people on the board that are all flawed with human factors. They're jealous, they're envious, whatever. Whatever human factor that's a negative, they bring that to the board. And one of the biggest things with this board is groupthink. Groupthink is something that I was taught in human factors. You see, when I was working for United Airlines, started working at United Airlines right about the time that affirmative action started, 1986. And within 5 or 6 years, United Airlines contracted out to this education company human factors classes. It got so bad at United Airlines with sexual harassment, every kind of harassment. I'm sensitized to civil rights. From like 1989 until like I left United Airlines, it seemed every week or every couple of weeks there was a letter written by the lawyers that I had to sign that I understood what harassment was, sexual harassment, every kind of harassment. Every 2 weeks there'd be a different letter. United lost so many lawsuits because these old guys, this old guard, is like the Buckeye, the old townies from Buckeye, couldn't accept outsiders in the form of females in their maintenance system. And a lot of these women, they had no background. They passed the test, they got their license, but as far as being dedicated mechanics, some of them were trying to make a paycheck, like me, but this dedication and obsession with doing it right and doing the job right and knowing the equipment and knowing the what you were doing, a lot of men who had spent their life and career living like that couldn't accept how some women didn't take it serious or didn't understand. If you gave them a job or something like that. And I'm not knocking all women. There's just as many stupid men out there, mechanics, as there are. To match, for every woman I just described, there's 2 men in her same way. What they call it pencil whipping. They pencil whipped. Well, what happened out here 20 years ago when they stole Track Day and converted it and gave it to a couple of Midwest people, Colorado on one side and Nebraska on the other, who more or less have, through their statements and actions and the HOA in the town of Buckeye and the golf course actions, posture during all this for the last 10 years, their posture is, we're not changing this. We stole it fair and square years ago. You're not getting it back. Those people have got a forever entitlement that they're never going to see golf carts or rescue vehicles or fire vehicles going by their house. All right? They don't have to observe the plat map. All right? This is the blind eye. The blind eye that goes along with the all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye is used for discipline. That's how they keep track of you. You got neighbors that they think their job is to keep track of you. Everything you do. Who comes and goes and watches and whatever you do. And whenever I start doing something to my lot, I don't dare go to the post office. But this is for anybody that gets this house. This video is going to be labeled with the address of this house. Every video I have from now on is going to have the address of this house. So that forever and ever, whoever goes to buy this house, whoever does business for this house, whatever real estate scammer that tries to sell the house to somebody without telling them the truth, there's going to be a video. And one of the true things about living here and having this lot where I am is I'm on point. There's hardly a day that goes by that I don't get a ball in my yard. And the ball comes from beginners and amateurs. In the morning during the week it isn't bad. These are middle-aged golfers who've been playing for years. They sort of got a groove swing. It's later on in the weekends and the afternoons when you have the afternoon special that this place turns into a circus. A circus. Now I feel that I shouldn't have to be burdened with this. I shouldn't have to be burdened with a $100 a day fine for I don't even know why. They won't tell me. They won't put in anything on paper that would hurt them. I don't know how it would hurt them to just simply tell me, take a picture and describe to me what I'm doing wrong, and then tell me how to solve it, tell me what to do, give me a plan, a blueprint, to tell me what to do to my lot so that I can bring it into compliance. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. Please. These are long videos. People will probably say, I'm getting so sick of hearing that guy talking. Well, I'll tell you what, if you were to buy this house and live in it for a couple years, if golf ever gets to the point where it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we would have had 50 carts go by or more by now. And on the weekends, that tee right there, that little cart path going all the way back to the corner is a parking lot on the weekends. When you sell 250 rounds in one weekend, that becomes a parking lot. You have 2 and 3 groups waiting on that tee to tee off. And one thing that gripes me, and I've tried to suggest to the pro shop, is when you got a lot of heavy bookings on the weekend, and you know they're all amateurs and beginners, move the tee box up. Move the pin up. If you've got 200 booked, 200 known booked greens fees for Saturday, move the tees up, or the greens and the tee. Move the tee up. Move the flag up to it's right next to the bailout area. Put that flag front and left, and then move the tees up about 30 yards. Do you have any idea what that would do to the pace of play? On the weekends, if you take that tee box that you're looking at now and you take it back another 5 yards and leave it there, and then you put that pin way in the back, right, with the harbor behind it, the water behind it, you're talking an average 10, 15 minutes to play the hole. Where if you had that pin up front in the bailout area and you had the senior tees up by the ladies' tees, it'd be a little short poke down to the bailout area, a little pitch, chip, putt, and be on your way. But here on some of the busiest days that you have, you make the course as difficult as you can. What slows play more than a difficult course? Making it hard. And any time you put a pin in the back, by the water, right on the edge of the green, if they're short in the bailout area, you know what their next shot is? They fly one over the pin into the back where all that thick grass in the lake is. Now it's a posse. Now 4 golfers are back there in that thick grass and lake trying to find a golf ball. I've seen it so many times it makes me sick. The people who are running this place have no clue, right? No clue. And you got this ignorance. Can I call it ignorance? This ignorance and arrogance that we can put that tee box there anytime we want. We can threaten you and induce risk on you day in and day out. This is the pro shop determining how much risk I'm going to have today. Are we going to move that tee box across the little harbor there and elevate it and take the ladies' tee box and restore track day in the drain to what it is on the blueprint? That drain in track day still doesn't match the original blueprint for this parcel. It doesn't. It's a cob job. In the airline business, they cobbed the job and then they pencil whipped it. We'll do a cob job. We'll make it look like they can use it. We'll make it look like they can walk down it. We'll make it look like it drains. We'll make it look like it is, but it's a cob job. Then we'll pencil whip it. We'll get an engineer to pencil whip the job. That's exactly what happened. I know it because I lived 30 years of that working on airplanes. You got planners that plan jobs that it's a 10-hour job. It can't be done in less than 10 hours. It can't be done for less than $2,000 in labor and parts. But some ambitious little pencil whipper, a newbie who doesn't understand the implications of what he just did, will reduce. He'll put out a job and make that a 2-hour job. What he'll do is handcuff a mechanic out on the line. They'll send that job card out and they'll say to the mechanic out on the line, you got 2 hours to do this job. And here's what you got to do it with. And a lot of parts, if it was like say a heavy duty ground wire, and I'm going to use that analogy for track day. You know, on a house or a building, when they got that heavy wire that goes down to a copper rod driven into the ground, that heavy wire going from the box, the power box, your circuit breaker box, down to that piece of rod driven into the ground, that heavy piece of wire, that's ground. If the house gets hit with an electrical strike or anything, all that power gets immediately hit the ground. Anything that hits that circuit breaker box gets immediately shorted to ground through that thick ground wire. There isn't an inspector in the east or west valley, I don't think, that would ever certify a house that didn't have an electrical system or electrical installation without making sure that heavy gauge wire is attached to a rod driven in the ground and attached to the circuit breaker box for ground. Well, that's what track day is to parcel 12. It's a huge ground wire for water. Water's like electricity. Now, a lightning strike for the circuit breaker box is a monsoon storm that drops 2 or 3 inches of water in an hour. Okay, or 3 inches in an hour. That's a lightning strike. And the thing of it is, most of, and I have the plat maps and I have the original documents, the as-built plans. I have the original as-built plans. The as-built plans for most of the parcels in Sundance drain properly. They were built properly. They match the original document that was drawn up somewhere around North Phoenix, okay, Scottsdale. Whoever the engineer that designed the drainage tract for track day over in Scottsdale 22, 23 years ago. When that plan got here, it was brushed under the rug. That doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for our friends. Our friends don't want to share those lots up there. Our friends want those lots all to themselves. Our friends think, our friends up there that we're going to gift this entitlement to, think it's okay for everybody in parcel 12 to have to drive out to the 7th tee to get on the golf course. They see no problem with that. They also see no problem with if we have a meltdown out on Sundance Parkway where we can't get in either portal in the parcel 12 and somebody is dying, having a heart attack, a stroke, a broken leg, a serious burn, a house on fire, whatever. These people that live, our friends up there, don't have a problem with eliminating that emergency ingress and egress. They're from the Midwest. They're country. They don't see any importance of having that track day open. They don't see any importance in having track day drained properly. Okay? They want it all to themselves. Okay? Track day got co-opted by a bunch of selfish people from the Midwest. Okay? Like I said, I'm in the kingdom of the all-seeing eye. Now, the kingdom of the blind eye and the all-seeing eye are all together on track day. And my lot, 40 feet from what they're writing up, my lot is a Grand Canyon, a crevice that's about 2 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and 12 feet long. You could hide a squad of Marines in it. Every golfer on this golf course, every manager, every HOA person that plays golf, when they drive by the end of track day on the 6th tee, they see a Grand Canyon, a crevice, sitting at the end of a walking easement. Sitting at the end of a walking easement with no lighting at night. Now, the HOA board, the town, everybody, the golf course, they're counting on tribal knowledge over here that everybody that lives over in this corner knows about that ditch, about that crevice, about that Grand Canyon. They'll avoid it. Plus, everybody over there that's been there more than 10 or 15 years in that neighborhood are following the groupthink. The groupthink that thinks that this is normal, this is right, this is compliant. It's not compliant. They ruined the ground wire. All the water that's supposed to run down that open water channel to the lake that follows the pipe underground, that got voted out. They redesigned the golf course. When the engineer asked, why did this pipe get extended almost 100 feet? Why did it get extended almost 100 feet to the lake? The answer on the engineering sheet is golf course redesign. It is what it is. Well, that's another lien on this house. Not only do I have to put up with golf balls day in and day out, breaking windows, and people walking in my yard, standing on my patio, I have to put up with the fact that I know if any emergency comes for anybody in this parcel, emergency vehicles are not allowed to come in over track day. And that's what it was designed for. It was designed as back in Scottsdale 22 years ago, but when it got out here, it didn't work for us. We're country. You're trying to put all these city restrictions on us that cost us money. We don't want to spend that money. Plus, we want to be able to drive trucks past this tee box. 4-ton trucks, all right, for hole-in-one contest. If we have to build the sidewalk the way they tell us to build it, where water runs underneath it, that isn't going to be much of a sidewalk to support a 4-ton truck or two. On the weekends when we have the hole-in-one, we're open for business. Having that flimsy little sidewalk is going to hurt our business because it's going to make it challenging to drive a 4-ton truck over, an 8,000-pound truck when we have our hole-in-one contest. This is so similar or analogous. I have a story to tell you. In 1978, I was living in Seattle, and I got a job as a computer operator on the graveyard shift for an IBM 360. All you baby boomers, all you people that came up through the computers, you know what an IBM 360 is? It's this huge, gargantuan computer that uses tape reels, all right? You had to have a library or a room where you kept all these tapes. And all these tapes, some of them were updated daily, some were updated monthly, some were updated weekly. Anybody that'd been a computer, I had punch cards, my job, when I came in at night, I had a menu of programs that I had to run. And that floor, on the other side of the window from the computer, were about 30 or 40 desks of data input. This was the old days, 78. When you sent your bill in, a lady opened up to check, she made a thing in the data, that data went into a tape for the day, and then that tape had to go to the master tape, updated every day, and then there were weekly tapes you had to make, monthly tapes you had to make. Anybody that was working with a 360 30 computer in the old days, you know what I'm talking about. Well, this story starts, I was doing this when I got hired, about a week after I got hired. Because of progress and the constant innovation of computers, they contracted to Prime Computers out of Boston to consolidate this room full of tapes. Hundreds of them, onto disk drives. And this disk drive looked like a stack of 78 records. Looked like a stack of 78 records. It looked like a big cake that you put a cake in, and it had a stack of discs on it. And you drop that into a box that looked like a washing machine. Well, they took all the data that was on all the tapes and they made a master tape. And once they got that master tape with all the data, the current data that was in that room of tapes, hundreds of tapes, 50, maybe more. Well, what happened was, by the time they would start a load, that master tape load would start on this. And the guy from their agent from Boston, he was supposed to come out. This was supposed to take like a day or two. He was supposed to come out, babysit the load, and when the load got finished and everything was transferred to the new disk, he was going to go back to Boston. Well, I used to get to work around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. I had the midnight shift. There was another guy there who sort of broke me in, got me started. He was a real computer geek. I wasn't. I was just doing it for the paycheck. And they weren't paying me anything either. I think I was getting paid $4 an hour to do that. Well, anyway, I get in there and the guy says, this is going to finish up about 2 o'clock. Around 3 o'clock, we figure this load is going to finish up. And when the light comes on and it says we're complete, we're complete. Well, it didn't happen. We got a red light, or the wrong light came on. The guy says, if this light comes on, give me a call. I just live a few minutes away. So I called him. I said, the light's on. It didn't go through. He come out. Well, that started about 10 days or 2 weeks of me every night waiting for this thing to finalize, and around 2 in the morning I would get a light. And what it was there was faults. This computer kept track of the number of faults during the load, and once it got up to a certain percentage of faults for the data that it was putting on, it would kick out the load. This guy from Boston was so frustrated he didn't know what to do. He was scratching his head, and I was talking to him at night because lots of times he'd be there, and I'd watch this discussion. I don't know what to do. I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything exactly the way I'm supposed to do it, and I don't know why this thing is kicking out all the time. Well, somebody went back and started looking at the history of the building. This was a big building in Northgate off Aurora in Seattle, North Seattle. About a 7 or 8 story building, all glass. And it was summer. That's another thing. This was in the summer, in July and August. And so an engineer started looking into the history and looking into the building and the building's history. And what they came up with was, when that building was built, and I figure maybe it was no more than 10 or 15 years old, when it was built, there was a job order to put 2 separate electrical lines from the street to the building. 2 independent electrical lines. Load. These are big wires. Big wires. Okay? And it was on the contract. Everybody agreed. It was in the plans for the building. 2 independent lines. Heavy duty. High tension. Independent electrical lines. Anybody that's an electrician out there can probably guess what happened. Anybody that's been in the business. Well, 10 years earlier, the contractor who agreed to build it that way didn't build it. He put in 1 line, and he got an inspector to buy it off. What do we need this for? This was probably 1965, 68 when the building was built. In 1965, 68, the computers, the internet, the only people that had them was the Pentagon. Pentagon was the only people that had the internet. So the electrical guy goes, I don't see why they need 2 of these. Jesus, 1 will handle anything the building can handle. Anything that the building's going to throw on, any draw, this 1 line is so overbuilt, it'll do it. And they didn't put in the 2nd line. It took 2 weeks for them to find that out before somebody finally started looking for the blind eye. Let's go looking at the blind eye. What they were blind to 10, 15 years ago. And I'm going to make that analogy here with track day. When that plan got here 22 years ago to install track day, to put a pipe, first of all, they ran the pipe down to the lake, which violated the flow rate. They had that pipe pitched down as far as they could pitch it and stay within the required flow rate. When these people out here decided to take over the plan and change it, they said to hell with the flow rate. We're going to drop that pipe another 5 feet. We're going to drop it another 5 feet to the lake. We're going to double, triple the flow rate on it. Nobody's watching. Well, now, like that building in Seattle, they had to go through. Probably the electrician that made that decision 10 years earlier to not put in that second line, and the inspector that pencil whipped it probably never got it hooked up with. They were probably out of business, and there was no repercussions, but they had to remedy it. They immediately put in a brand new high tension line from the street dedicated to the computer room. I failed to say that a couple minutes ago, but that line, that second line that was ordered back in 1965 was anticipation of computer. Because it was summer, all day long in a glass building with glass walls, everybody that had a seat in data entry could see outside. The air conditioning was kicking on and off all day long. Every time the air conditioning kicked on, whether it was every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, induced the fault during the load. That little trip, that little draw on the electrical system when the air conditioning kicked on was just enough to trip a fault in the load. The rep from Boston was ready to pull his hair out. He'd been away from Prime said, until you get that fixed out there, you're not coming home. He went out there expecting a 2-day trip or a 3-day at the most. He stayed there over 2 weeks. Why? Because a bunch of cowboys 10 years earlier did the same thing that they did here with Track Day. This doesn't work for us. It's going to cost us money. Why would we spend that money when all we have to do is just get somebody to buy it off? We'll build it the way we want it, and then we'll get it bought off, and that'll be the end of it. We stole it fair and square. No one will ever know. No one will ever know. We're out here alone. There's nobody here to see this. No one will ever figure this out. Nobody will ever know this. You did it to the wrong guy. You did it to a guy that spent 35 years with documents, paperwork, and doing everything by procedure. I never could do a job on an airplane without signing my name for it. Every job you do on an airplane has got a coupon or a certificate with it. And you sign it, and the FAA, so the FAA knows where to go. Whenever that plane goes down or crashes, the FAA knows exactly who was the last guy that worked on it. Okay? So, for 30 years, I signed my name for anything I did. And a lot of the old guys that got me started, and plus the guy that finally signed off for my ticket, I had to go do a practical for 2 days before I got my A&P and finally got signed off as a licensed airplane mechanic. And this old guy, with a compass and square ring on his finger, told me right out, don't you ever signed for something that you didn't do. Don't you ever allow anybody else to sign for anything you did. And from now on, you be as honest to this paperwork in your career as possible. You have a ticket. You have the ability now to go out and learn how to fix airplanes. And that's more or less the way you put it. You're going to now, with your ticket, you're going to go out and learn how to fix airplanes. You've got the starter. Do not ever do anything other than what you signed for. Would you sign for something, make sure you do it. And I tried to live like that. I respected him. I respected his position. He was an FAA examiner. That's what he did day in and day out with certified mechanics. Once they got through all the testing, they did a practical with him. He passed me, he got me, so I had my license. But I've lived with that rule all my life. And when I get out here and I think that a set of plans got out here 20 years ago that were legal, legitimate, signed for plans, everybody is signed to them, they're stamping all and stuff like that. How did this get built the way it got built? When that engineer questioned, he put a question on the as-built sheet. He goes, how'd this pipe get to be 90 feet longer? Guy goes, golf course redesign. Who gave him permission to redesign the golf course? Right? That was Buckeye. That's Buckeye's personality. All right? It hasn't changed much because we still have that Grand Canyon ditch, crevice, whatever you want to call it. Somebody's going to fall into it one night. Everybody right now concerned. And what's going to happen one of these days if somebody dies, and they can't get an ambulance? Somebody had a stroke. It's important to get the ambulance and the rescue and the paddles and everything to them as soon as possible. And we have a wreck on Sundance Parkway. And these emergency vehicles can't get into Parcel 12. What's going to happen then? You're going to have egg all over your face. All right? Just like that militia training ground you had, that illegal gun range you had that was a militia training ground. Let's face it, it was a militia, Buckeye's militia training ground. It was an illegal gun range they had here. There were some people, I guess they were shooting pistols. The tribal knowledge is you don't shoot a high-powered rifle here. You bring pistols. Well, somebody brought out a high-powered rifle and that bullet went over probably a half a mile and killed a woman, a pregnant lady. Got killed from an illegal gun range in Buckeye set up for the militiamen out here. The guys that are going to take the country back. The guys that were in Washington on January 6th. In the newspaper, right after that happened, they asked a couple of people out there about why they don't use the real gun range down off 85, going towards Gila Bend. And the newspaper printed their response. Here's what the newspaper printed. Their response was, we're not allowed to have quick draw contests here at the other range where we can do it here. And we're not allowed to practice mock envelopments. We can practice mock envelopments here and we can have quick draw contests here. So that's why we don't use the other range going toward Gila Bend. Where they close the range, there's whistles, there's all kinds of rules and stuff. Well, you let it go. And everybody, the police, everybody knew about this gun range. This was a local tribal knowledge. We can go there and shoot guns all day, unsupervised. Until they killed the lady. Well, that's basically what's going to happen here with Tract A indirectly. It'll be the same thing. One of these days, there's going to be the perfect storm. And that perfect storm is a pileup between the two portals, and there'll be no access to Parcel 12. And if somebody has a stroke, a heart attack, or maybe there's a little fire in their garage that could have been put out in 10 minutes if the trucks could have got there, the house burnt to the ground. Why? Because they couldn't get in the two portals that were plugged up with the accident, and Tract A is taken out of service. Tract A isn't available to them. All right? This is the lien that's going on my house. This is a lien I've had on my house for 19 years. Before I even moved into it, they had it liened.